Speaking of roots, we all need watering of our own roots to grow. And in my business, that can happen when you have heroes to look up to. And without question, there is a hero of mine who helped shape my life as a professional. That would be the late Gwen Ifill. When I was a young man, there weren't a whole lot of black faces to look up to in the news business, especially female. She was an enormous figure for me. Her work for the New York Times covering the Clinton campaign was a highlight. Her byline above the fold nearly daily was a thing of beauty and an inspiration. In 2010, she came to our fair city for her own book tour for this called Breakthrough: Politics and Race in the Age of Obama. Great book. If you haven't read it, if you attended the packed event that night that we did, you recall how huge a figure she was for all of us. And sitting down with her at this table, honestly, was dizzying. I still can't believe I didn't just pass out in front of her. But we made it through, and it was truly, truly a massive highlight for me. On the book, what was your impetus to write this? There's been plenty of documentation about the race in 2008, but you're coming from a very different angle here.
Very different. A lot of people, as you recall back then, thought I was writing a book about President Obama. But in fact, President Obama was just a spark for a story I'd been carrying around in my head for many years, which is, who are these African Americans who are taking advantage of the breakthroughs that happened during the civil rights movement? I was raised at a time when people were still marching in the streets and sitting at lunch counters. I'm watching a generation of young black kids who are raised who don't know what lunch counters even are. This is alien to them almost. And even when President Obama was elected, they went, so what? What is happening is something different from what we saw in the civil rights movement. Instead of marches, instead of laws on the books, we now see a generation of candidates who are taking advantage of the laws that were already passed. They're no longer trying to get laws passed. They're taking advantage of public accommodations. They're taking advantage of access to elite educations, which we see so many of them in this breakthrough crowd have. And as a result, the impetus kind of changes. It's not identity focused. It's not identity driven. But what you see when you see them all of a sudden in the mix, not only in Congress and in the White House, but also in state legislatures and in mayors' offices, is that we have now, the word is integrated politics in a way that hadn't happened in the 1960s or 70s.
An interesting part about the book that I got a lot out of, because again, if you're either there during those early civil rights struggles or not, what's wonderful about the book is that look at the sandpaper friction you describe between the Moses generation, those who came up and fought the great battles, the epic battles, and as you just mentioned, those who hadn't. But the negotiation between those two thoughts are a fascinating deal.
Sometimes between parents and their children.
Right.
It's interesting to see someone like Bill Clay in Missouri, who broke through and got arrested in civil rights marches, and his son is in Congress but campaigning on behalf of school vouchers, something his father would be completely against. Jesse Jackson Jr., Jesse Jackson Sr., different approaches to kind of the same goals. So it's interesting to watch what happens, and also what happens is when you get power, you don't like handing it over. And that's not just if you're African American. That's what happens with the Brahmin and the Irish in Boston. It's just the way it's always happened. But what happens when you've only recently come to power is the friction is that much greater. It's like, I'm not willing to give you that torch yet, even though if you would just wait a moment. All these candidates I talked to were told to just wait a minute, we'll get to you. Instead, you now have a generation who's saying, well, that's nice, thank you so much, we respect what you did, but we're not going to wait, up to and including the president.
Black politics is one of those unfair questions, but where are we right now? We have a black president, we've got certainly some representation, but the amount of women in elected seats, there's been some problem, women of color, I should be specific. And then also for the bench, so to speak, black politicians coming forward to run for national office. Where do we stand now?
When I finished writing this book, I was very optimistic about this. I think there is quite a deep bench, and a bench that we're not aware of. Every time I went to interview someone for the book, they'd say, and do you know about so-and-so? And then I'd go there and they'd say, and do you know about so-and-so? The two black Republicans who were elected to Congress this term, I had never heard of them before 6 months ago, probably. So the idea that there are people out there we'd never heard of, in 2008, when we elected Barack Obama, no one knew who he was in 2003 before he gave his big speech. So things change very quickly, and I think the bench is deep, but it's not exclusively identity driven, and it's not exclusively party driven. I think that can only be helpful. I think it can be helpful because so many of the kids we're raising, we're walking this line where we want them to be aware of their history, but we don't want them to be bound by it. And if we can elect a generation of politicians of color and white politicians too, who see the world that way. Isn't that what we're really striving for?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
The question is it appropriate for African Americans to criticize vigorously this African American president publicly? And we do this amongst
Yeah.
ourselves. There's always a good row, amongst ourselves. But, I'm thinking back to when Tavis Smiley was asking some very tough questions during the campaign, and Cornel West and some other folks. That seems to be a part of the democracy as well. You've got to have these arguments.
Sure it is. Somebody's got to hold feet to the fire, and that's fine. The same thing happened to Deval Patrick in Massachusetts. He just got reelected, but he had a pretty vigorous Republican challenger in Massachusetts this last time. But a lot of his loudest critics, especially early on, were African American leaders who said, wait a second, what's the point in electing you if you're not speaking exclusively to us? And his response, as is Obama's response and so many of this new generation of breakthrough figures, is, don't give me such a hard time. I'm going to get to you if I fix all this other stuff. And it's just two different ways and two different philosophies of how one speaks to saving one's community or speaking for, or representing. I think that we're leaning more toward the former rather than the latter, because there are so few African American leaders, statewide leaders and beyond, but also because we're still in a minority and majority society. And the majority society and anybody, all they want from politicians is for them to say, I will speak to you and I will listen to you and I will speak for you. If at any point, any politician of any color or creed seems like they're only speaking to one group, they lose everybody else. And that's the line.